Welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast, the show where motherhood meets business and everything in between. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Gordon, and it's a really exciting guest for me today. Megan is somebody who is a community leader and who I got introduced to at an amazing event called Pacific Northwest Live 2025. I was so fortunate that I just happened to sit by her and Jessica, who is another founder of a community group called Bloss. I was so excited to meet Megan. I was like, can I get you on the podcast? Let's schedule it right now. And so here we are recording. I wanted to talk to her all about community, all about the businesses that she's built. I am just so thrilled to have her with us today. Everybody welcome Megan Gillespie. This is my
Hello.
round of applause. Round of applause
Yay.
for you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. Can you give us a little bit of an introduction? You're new to our Mom Boss community. We haven't had a chance to come to each other's meetups and things like that, which I would love to do. I would love for you to give us a little intro, talk to us a little bit about your family and then your businesses, and then, of course, your community group.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Megan Gillespie, and I am a mom of two. I have a 6-year-old and a 2.5-year-old who is currently trying to take a nap at the moment. So, this is kind of like my sweet spot for working, as you fellow moms listening well know. And I am located in Olympia. I was very excited to just happen to be at the table with you at the live event. I had seen your community pop up on my Instagram. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And what are the chances that we got to sit right
It
next to
was
each other?
It's literally fate. It's amazing because out of all the women in the room, we didn't have assigned seats. It wasn't like they put us together on purpose. That was a total accident and total fate. And I'm obsessed with it.
I know. I know. I was so excited. And we got this podcast on the books that day. And I'm so excited to be here because along with being a mom, I am also a podcaster myself. I am a business mentor and I specialize in working with women entrepreneurs, specifically women who have time constraints, right? Whether you don't want your whole life to be working, whether you have small kids at home, maybe you have a second job that you eventually want to leave. I thrive in helping you figure out how to fit your business into the lifestyle and season of life that you're in. I've had to do that for the last 6+ years, trying to figure it out as a mom with kids at home full time. And so I've gotten really, really good at being strategic about how I show up in my business, how I plan my schedule, and how I can execute everything I need to do while also being home with my children. Is it perfect? No, but we power through it and I found a way to make it work. And now I have the absolute honor of helping other women do the same thing. I run two businesses full time. I have my business mentorship, and then I also run the Olympia Boss Society group. This is a networking community for women entrepreneurs in Olympia, Washington. And this was really created out of a need to do things differently. It is a space that's curated to welcome anybody, whether you have just started business, whether you've been in business for a long time, whether you have small kids at home, whether you're a total introvert. This is a space that was built for women to come together and be there for each other because you all listening know how much we really need that. And so that's what I do. I am so busy between my mentorship business, the Olympia Boss Society, and my two kids at home with me. But the way that I have structured my business and just my lifestyle in this season, it feels so magical. It almost doesn't feel like work. And I just feel really blessed that I get to do things like this as part of my
Mhm.
business.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I swear we need to have a whole episode just about that. Like both of your businesses, it would be really amazing to have just a whole episode dedicated to that or have you come and speak. I love that. You're welcome no matter where you're at in your business, whether you're building the business or whether you're a six-figure business owner. I think that that's an amazing place to be because I think a lot of times people who are just starting out businesses don't feel welcome
Mhm.
at all networking groups, which is fine. Not all tables
Mhm.
are meant for you, but it's great that you can find a table for you. And also, you made one. You made that because it was a need that your community needed. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you got into the Olympia Boss Society, what you had started off first with, and then how you pivoted into what it is now?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I have been scrappy throughout my whole career of creating the spaces that I need and then realizing that other people need them as well. So I'll give you a little backstory. I have been business minded my whole life, as long as I can remember. I'm a Virgo, I'm an Enneagram 3, manifesting generator. I started my career in cosmetology and I got thrown into managing a corporate salon when I was 21 years old. And that's like some big shoes to fill. I was living in Pullman in a college town. My friends were going to college and I was a boss. And I was like, this does not, like, I'm trying to fit into this thing that's not realistic. But I was doing it. I was trying my best. I was, putting on the front and I was showing up professional. And then when I was 25, I moved into a larger corporate chain as a manager and it was terrifying. It was like a salary job and my, employees were older than me for the most part. I learned from a really young age that I needed to show up or I thought I needed to show up in a very specific way in order to be seen as a
Mhm,
professional. And the message that I was being given my whole career was you're too young. You're not professional enough. Dress this way, talk this way, act this way, walk this way, be this way, and people will finally take you seriously. I was scrapping my way through this corporate world until I decided to move out and run my own salon business. I did that for a handful of years. Then I realized, wait, this is where it's at. I am meant to be an entrepreneur, not working for a corporation, but working for myself. And so I ran
mhm.
my own salon business for a handful of years. Then I moved into real estate, which was a total 180, but at the same time, very aligned because it's still serving people, helping people,
Yeah.
just really being a support for the community. And when I moved into real estate, that was like, okay, this is the big leagues. Like, this is the real career. Like, this is briefcase, pencil skirt. Like, I got to be on all the
Mhm,
time. And I built my career off of that as
mhm,
I was really just struggling between these two different worlds. Over here, I'm a professional. And when I get home, I'm a young adult with no
mhm,
kids and whatnot at the time. I was really colliding internally with who I really was, and I had no idea. And it wasn't until I became a mom that I really started to figure it out, which sounds very backwards because we also lose ourselves so much in motherhood.
mhm,
But I came to this moment where I was like, now that I have a newborn baby, I don't have the energy to keep showing up as somebody that I'm not. And I'm isolating myself by being a fake version of who I really am in order to grow my business. And I feel fortunate that I had that epiphany because that's what started everything that I'm doing now. I decided, look, I've been seen as this professional entrepreneur that I intentionally built a brand as this buttoned
mhm.
up girl who's, doing all of these really big things at such a young age. And I'm, so well respected because I've built this brand for myself. But now I'm a first time mom with no sleep, trying to figure out how to breastfeed this little tiny human. And I don't know how I'm supposed to keep doing this. And by
Yeah.
the way, all my friends either work full time or they're home full time, and nobody understands what I'm going through right now. What am I going to do? That's
Yep.
what was bubbling up inside of me. So I decided to do something about it. I started my podcast, which at the time was called Boss Ladies and Babies. I said, you know what? I'm going to do both. I am going to be a boss lady with a baby on my hip, and I'm going to show other people and myself, because again, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I'm going to
Mhm,
show everyone that we can do this, that we can do both. This podcast started with an iPhone at my dining room table. It was just me and my best friend just talking about motherhood and entrepreneurship and everything that comes along with it, I quickly started to build this brand for myself where people were realizing that you don't have to be perfect all the time and
Yeah.
realizing that we can do all of this. And so that's kind of what started
Mhm.
everything. And it's just grown from there. I created a community for women entrepreneurs with small children at home through the podcast that shifted into a virtual membership. And then sometime around 2020, it was, this is getting hard again, right? We are feeling
Mhm.
lonely again, and I am really looking for more. And so that's when I started the behind the scenes of creating Olympia Boss Society. And it took a couple years to really get that idea nailed down. And I put myself out there again and grew this group that was taking it just a step further, which was something that
Mhm.
I really needed and something that I knew the women in my community needed as well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. What's your podcast called now?
So my podcast is in the middle of a transition, so you can
That's right,
still
that's right.
find it, Boss Ladies and Babies, but it will be out in March, and the name is the Boss Society Podcast.
Okay. I remember you saying that when we were talking in person that you were shifting and transitioning. I couldn't remember
Mhm.
if you had already done that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Gosh, your story sounds so familiar. I mean, this is why we connected and why we totally vibe. Like the need for community, I feel this so deeply. I'm curious, as you transitioned from professional, quote unquote, from having this certain image about yourself and then going into motherhood and taking away the masks and starting to show up authentically, what feelings came up for you as you were showing up to your group of women that you were leading? Did you ever feel like any imposter syndrome or like did some of that professionalism that you felt you needed to show in your earlier career start to creep in and make you doubt yourself? What types of feelings came up for you as you were leading the podcast in the virtual community?
Yeah, so many. And still to this day, like, because it's so ingrained in us that you're less than if you have a child with you, I feel like. I
Mhm.
just constantly
Distracted.
was distracted, hot
Mhm.
mess, like, not on
Mhm.
time and just less
Chaos.
chaos, less
Yes.
professional. I just like, there was so many feelings of questioning myself of, are people going to take me seriously? I'm
Mhm.
building this brand and I'm attracting these people, but there's a whole nother half of society that doesn't get it still, and maybe they never
Mhm.
will. And
Mhm.
also, there's the side of, I've only been a mom for a few months. Do I even really
Mhm.
know what I'm talking about? Like, no matter
Mhm.
how you look at it, there's always imposter syndrome that is, it's there, along with the guilt, along with the just constantly questioning yourself. And I think the only thing that got me through and helped me to continue to keep pushing forward, even when I was feeling those things, was the dedication that I made that I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to do it in a public way so that even if I don't figure it out, maybe I'm inspiring one person who felt the way I felt. That's the only thing that got me through. And even to this day, it's still the main thing that gets me through. I'm in a season now where my kids are a little bit older. I'm still home full time with my 2.5-year old. My daughter's in first grade. I haven't had to take him to work with me often. I've been able to build my business around my lifestyle. But recently, I had to bring him with me to a morning event that we had for my Olympia Boss Society group, which is for women. It's not all moms. We do attract a lot of moms, but it's for women in general. And some of the women are older and they have grown kids, or they're younger and they don't have kids yet, or they just have decided not to have children. And
Mhm.
I had to bring him to this event. And I was brought right back to that moment as a first time mom with a brand new baby, trying to figure out how to show up to work with a baby. And all those old feelings came rushing back. I was like, what am I doing? I'm not that person who worries about this, but I
Yeah.
could not help that natural instinct of being like, oh my gosh, people aren't going to take my group seriously now because I have a kid with me at this casual coffee chat. What am I
Right.
doing? Why do I feel this way? But it's so natural for us to feel that way. And guess what? nobody even cared. People were like, "Oh, he's so cute," or "That's so great," or "You're such a good mom that you're able to bring him with you." People were inspired by the fact that I've built my business around being able to be home with my kids. And none of that is what we're thinking about. Usually we're thinking
Yeah.
about how horrible people are going to think I am
Yeah.
because I can't put my kids somewhere else to go to work.
Yep. Gosh, it kind of breaks my heart where like that is our first instinct. I do think like as we go along in this motherhood journey, like we give we give less shits about what other people say and
Mhm.
think and do. But it is really sad, especially so far into it. You know, you have an
Mhm.
older child. You already have been in this mothering game for 6 or 7 years now, right? And then it's like, oh man, you're still feeling these feelings. And it just goes to show how deep that is ingrained. Talk to me a little bit about like building your personal brand. What were some things that you tend to do or continue to do in order to build this brand that you have for yourself? I also want you to talk a little bit about how you show up on the Olympia Boss Society Instagram. Like you have
Mhm.
something every day, and I just love it. I guess it's kind of a two-part question. I would like to know a little bit about your routine, like
Mhm.
just kind of how you make this happen, and then the way that you show up so
Yeah.
authentically in doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, as I was trying to figure out what my niche was as a business mentor, it was really hard for me to articulate it for so long because my schedule is because of my personal brand. The way I show up is because of my personal brand. The direction of my business is because of my personal brand. Because a long time ago, I made a decision that I'm going to just be me and I'm going to build around me and
Mhm.
leaning into the different versions of me that happen along the trajectory of my career. And that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, there's shiny object syndrome left and right,
Oh, yeah.
constantly being distracted, constantly losing who me is. And so when I think about building my personal brand, I know that it's extremely fluid. It just comes down to I'm going to show up and be true to who I am, what I feel, and embrace my insecurities in a way that are going to hopefully inspire other people. And so,
I
kind
love
of
it.
it started with the motherhood thing, and it continues to evolve. I'm embracing those insecurities and building a brand around that. When it comes to my schedule, I feel like this whole year, 2025 so far, I keep saying like next week will be normal. Next week we'll be back on routine. And there has been very little routine this entire couple months so far. But for the most part, my schedule, I always wake up before the kids. I am a much better mom, human, just like everything. When I have some time to myself, I'll make my bed, do my like skincare, teeth, all of that. I go downstairs and I do some, it's called activations. And it's like meditation, but it's guided in a way that helps you just get really comfortable with who you are because I struggle with personal identity and self love. That's how I start every day. Then I move into a little bit of work before the kids wake up. Then I move into mom mode, dropping off at school, doing all the mom stuff till nap time. Then I have a couple hour chunk of work there. And then I go back to mom mode. That's my day. So I really have about 14 hours a week to work on my business. That doesn't include our events that we have for Olympia Boss Society. We have 4 events per month. So that's not included in my 14 hours a week. In those 14 hours, I'm doing social media, writing emails, working on my visibility strategy. I am mentoring my clients. I'm doing anything behind the scenes that I need to take care of in that time. So that's kind of what my schedule looks like. And then remind me the second part of the question. Sorry.
No, you answered it. Just talking
Okay.
about how you show up authentically as your brand. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about those meditations and what you're doing to help, because I think that's probably something you mentioned that as moms, we tend to lose ourselves. A lot of us transitioned into full-time entrepreneurship
Mhm.
because of our role changing into being a mom.
Mhm.
That's my story. I worked at a startup, so it was like not that different than entrepreneurship, but still it was I left a job that had security and to start a business that I had been building on the side for 8 years up until that point. And
Mhm.
then you transition because childcare is so expensive or you don't want to like have somebody else raising your young babies and you do have that luxury to stay home and build a business on the side, it can be really overwhelming. You can start to doubt yourself and have that imposter syndrome and things like that. And I love the meditation piece. I'm just curious if you are able to share what kind of resources you're using there, because I'd love to share that with the community.
Yeah, I'll give you the link. I actually heard about it on another podcast. And as a very type A person, meditation has always been hard for me. This app, it's called Activations, and it has honestly changed my life. I've been doing it since January. And there's all sorts of different activations that you can do about stepping into abundance and getting really clear on who you are and what you love about yourself. And even before our Olympia Boss Society events, as a bit of an introvert, I'll listen to an activation that's gearing you up to head into a social setting. It
Mhm.
it honestly has changed my life, and I'm super happy to share it. I'll give you the link to put in there. It's one of those things that for me to teach people how to build a personal brand, for me to show up as a person building a personal brand,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be true to form of to not be constantly working on who I am. I think when people hear personal brand, they're like, okay, I have to establish that right now and then stick with that. And I think it's really important to remember that you can evolve as a human. You're going to, and it's okay when you intentionally lean into your personal brand. It's okay for you to bring people along with that. In fact, it's encouraged. That's what's really going to build the know, like, and trust factor. And it's going to build a community of people behind you, whether it's an actual physical community like we have,
Mhm.
or it's just a community backing up your brand who are
Mhm.
excited to hear, oh, Megan's working on herself. I want to hear what this is that she's doing, or I want to encourage her. I want to follow along. I want to
Mhm.
try it too. I want to see her win. Building your personal brand is going to give you that community behind you that's going to help you as you're evolving. And I think that's the most special thing you can have.
Oh, I love that. I mean, yeah, it's so true. When you let people in, and it's hard to do, it's hard to be vulnerable, it's hard to share your growth with others because it is such a personal thing, but it can be a part of people's personal brands. It doesn't always have to be. It is a part of mine, and it
Mhm.
seems to be a part of yours as well. Is like, hey, look, I'm figuring this out with you. You actually had a reel just the other day. I actually didn't see it in real time, but I saw it yesterday, and it was you showing up at Olympia Boss Society, like all dressed up and looking super cute, and then it was also you looking cute at your computer, but maybe not as dolled up and feeling this is kind of more the behind the scenes that people don't always see. And that is a part of building your personal brand. And that's a perfect example of how people actively do that. I thought that was really cool. I knew that we were going to be talking about personal brand today. I was
Yeah.
very interested in having you on for multiple reasons. I'm curious, speaking of like kind of personal brands and being vulnerable, how do you push through the hard? How do you find a way to kind of dig deep and get yourself out of a rut or feeling those low seasons of business? And what can you share with the community that they could do too?
Yeah, great question. I mean, it I have been in actually pretty tricky season for the past like year or so. I'm a person who struggles with mental health, like anxiety. I have severe anxiety. I've been struggling with depression recently, which isn't something that I've really dealt with before. As humans, not just with mental health, but with any hardship, we naturally want to turn inward and not talk about it. Of course, I'm not saying you need to share everything with everybody and let everybody know what's going on with you all the
Hmm.
time. Like, there is a very fine line, but
Hmm.
I am so comfortable with being open now because I've practiced it. I try to remain open as much as I can. And
Hmm.
I think about, and now again, like with the makeup of who I am as a human, I think strategy is where I always go. And I try to think strategically, what is something that I'm going through right now that I'm really struggling with that I know somebody in my community is also struggling with? And how can I talk about it in a way that is going to open up conversation or maybe just inspire somebody that they're not alone?
Hmm.
That's not putting every single thing happening in your life on social media. I'm not saying you have to do that, but just
Hmm.
thinking about what are some of the things that I know can relate with the people in my world. So
Mhm.
one example is with networking, right? Like people from my past would croak when they hear that I run a networking group because
Mhm.
I have always hated it. Like I always felt
Mhm.
really uncomfortable going to networking events. That was a big part of building the types of business that I was in, with real estate specifically. And I felt like I was too awkward and I was too messy and I had kids, so I was too much. And it was something that I truly hated and knew
Mhm.
that it would help my business, but I just didn't have the space to do it. And so I started talking about it. Hey, I'm the leader of this group and I have anxiety and I'm really nervous to talk one on one with you people here. I'm kind of awkward and I love to be silly and do these silly reels before our events. You're all invited to join in on any of this with me or not.
Mhm.
Whatever you want to do, this is a safe space. And so just to kind of like tie it all together, whether it's mental health, whether it's something for your business you feel like you should be doing, but don't like doing, whatever you're struggling with or feeling stuck on, chances are that there's a whole community of people out there that are feeling that same
Mhm.
way that you
Mhm.
can just kind of like pull back the curtain a little bit, open
Totally.
up, and start to find your people.
Totally. That's why I created this group too. It's so lonely as an entrepreneur. I also have struggled with anxiety, depression, ADHD, overstimulation. I was gonna add like an extra word in there, overstimulation. I think that's what I was
I,
trying to say. I struggle with words, but no, I that was the biggest reason to create this group. You need community. You need people. I don't wanna go on to my photography account and tell all my clients, like, "Guys, I could not get out of bed today." Like, I just like, when you're really struggling and really deep in that depression mode, it's like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know who to go to." And so a lot of that community aspect is like, even if you can find one other person who you can open up to, who gets it. It might not even be your best friend of 30 years. It might be the woman that you met at your networking group that you sat next to the last couple times, and she just makes you laugh and you felt really comfortable with her. And now she's your go-to person to text about that
yeah.
kind of stuff. I think that's what's so magical about and so needed about community like this. I love that you've created what you've created down south as well. Your experience seems to really lend itself really well. You were a salon owner, you were in cosmetology, like into that space, and then hard shift, like skirt into, real estate. And, now you have experience with mentorship, you have experience creating businesses, creating networking groups as a mom now. How do you feel that your experience has opened you up to not only feel more comfortable in front of your community, but also to guide them and feel like the right leader, like you're the girl for this group?
Yeah, I mean, my like natural instinct is to say like I'm not doing enough or I could always do better or like, imposter syndrome like that. When I hear somebody repeat back to me though the things that I'm doing, overwhelmingly, I feel really proud that that's,
Mhm.
the journey that I've been through and the things that I've learned along the way have package themselves up in such a cadence of events that can really help other women who experience what
Mhm.
I have experienced or continue to experience. And I think that at the root of everything that I've done throughout my career, it has been helping people and
Mhm.
providing something for people. I mean, they sound like so radically different, but when you think about someone's hair, that's so important to you. And
Yeah.
buying a house, that's the biggest decision you'll ever make. And then having a business, that is your baby, like your other baby. And so just the journey that I've been through in my career, all of the things that I've learned, the just huge roles that I've had in my life at such a young age, it's all just given me the tools to have the experience. And then I also think to have the empathy because
Mhm.
I've struggled. It hasn't been easy for me. I've worked my butt off and I am so ambitious. I'm constantly feeling like I should do more and more and more. And I have to check myself often. And something I really like to do is to try to embody what I teach people. and not
Mhm.
just talk about it, but I try to actually live it. And I
Mhm.
think that that is one of the things that makes it so impactful because people see that. And again, that's, going back to that personal brand piece, but people see like, okay, you talk about doing this, and then I was on your Instagram and I saw you actually doing that. Wow, now I'm connecting with you
Mhm.
even more. I trust you more. I want to be part of what you're doing. Or on my email list where, I open up and I share not only about my life and what's happening, but then I'm giving experience and tips and resources and support. Like it's such a delicate balance, and just the way that I'm so fortunate to bring everything together and to be able to provide that for people. Sometimes I have to pinch myself because it doesn't feel real, and it's something that I'm constantly learning and evolving on, which
Mhm.
makes it so much fun because
Yeah.
not only am I supporting the women that I work with, the women in my community, but I'm also growing alongside them. I don't pretend like I've got it all figured out. I may be a community leader, but I'm still learning and growing. And one of the things I always say is as a business owner, you have a responsibility to lead. Whether you're a
Mhm.
leader or not, it is your responsibility to lead the people who are interacting with you, your customers who are engaging with you, the community that you're building behind your brand, whether you're intentionally doing it or not. You have a personal brand and you have a community behind you, and it's your responsibility to lead them and to continue to grow and evolve right alongside them.
Are you speaking directly to my soul right now? Because it's like, "Oh, well, okay, yes, Megan, I will."
Yes.
That's how I felt. I was like, "Oh, okay, let's do this."
I
Oh,
love
that's
it.
so funny. I mean, it is, it's something even like, I'm new, I'm new to this. This is we're I think by the time this will air, you're gonna be it'll probably be March, and that will be our one-year anniversary. Like, March is our 1 year. And
Yay.
so it's like, I had a realization. I was building this Mom Boss group to showcase other women, which I still am. That's still very much a thing, but it was losing that personal brand feeling, and I was like, "You know what? I think I need to lean in and accept that I am the face of the Mom Boss Meetup. It's okay." I think it's a little scary because I am kind of a quote unquote mess. But the point of the group is not for me to be like, I am your leader. Listen to everything I say.
Right, right.
It's the point of the group is I am growing with you. I put together this group because I felt like there wasn't anybody kind of messy leading these groups.
Mhm.
And so it kind of just feels right. Like, oh, that's our brand. Like, not that we're messy. We're not.
Right.
It's actually, somebody told me they're like, when I first came to your meetup, I actually thought it was going to be kind of more of a mess, which is funny because I was like, oh, shoot, maybe I need to change my messaging. And she's like, and it was very well put together, very thought out. And I just had to laugh. I was like, yeah, I mean, I am like that too. I think sometimes the words in my head that I've been told as a kid in school or an employee to an employer in a review, those things still stick in my heart
Mhm.
and in my soul, right? Like, they still stick somewhere in that file folder in the back of my brain. Like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a mess. I start things, I don't finish them. I talk too much. I am too much. This is such a great conversation because I think this will resonate with so many, not only leaders, but with so many business owners because a
Mhm.
lot of us we do things differently. You talk a lot about supporting women and how that's your role and that's what you love to do. Who supports you? What village is in place for you that helps you, whether it's with your business? Do you have anybody supporting you in your business? Obviously, in your life? Just curious, who supports Megan?
Oh my gosh, that's like the big question. It's a
Uh-huh.
big I was struggling with support for a long time, and
Mhm.
it's a big part of what I create, right?
Mhm.
Is that support. And when I think about who supports me, it's really been a bonus of the business that I've built. I've always been one of those people that's like, I can do it by myself. I don't want to burden people. I don't want to put people out. And
Mhm.
I tend to self isolate. And so when I tell you, like, building a networking group in person outside of my comfort zone, that really has been. But also similar to that day when I started my podcast, realizing like I have this baby now, I can't keep doing this. I knew that if I didn't find my support, I was going to not keep going in the direction I
Mhm.
wanted to. I have my amazing husband who supports me. I have
Mhm.
my 2 dogs that support me, who I love so much. My kids support me sometimes, like, when I'm having a
Mhm.
meltdown and I'm like, "Mommy needs a minute," and my 2.5-year-old's like, "Wanna take deep breaths?" I'm like, "Yes."
Oh, I absolutely do.
I have my family close by, and my sisters are like my best friends. I have my best friend from high school who lives like they're military and they've been all over and they just landed like 6 minutes up the road from us, and she
Wow.
was actually a big part of starting Olympia Boss Society with me. And the women inside of Olympia Boss Society, like they have become just amazing, incredible friends.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's hard to make friends when you're an adult. And so
Oh,
to think
so
like
hard.
I've got all these friends now. This is so cool. Specifically, there's a group of women that have been coming since the beginning and a handful that have, they're a little bit newer, but they really see our message and they really see the growth and they want to support it. There's a handful that help behind the scenes with ideation and being hands-on at these events. Like that's this power of building your personal brand, being who you are and building your community. People will start to want to help your mission, and you
Mhm.
kind of have to check yourself with like, well, what's in it for them? And it's like this, like they want to be part of this. And that's a
Mhm.
really cool feeling too. I went from feeling so isolated, so alone. And, of course, family is great, but sometimes we need more
Right.
than that, right? And so
Totally.
just feeling like so lost to all of a sudden feeling like my cup is so full with people who understand what I'm going through. And that's been really
Mhm.
beautiful. I also have a therapist that
Oh,
supports me, which is
shout
so
out
important.
therapy.
That's right. I just had
Shout
to
out therapy.
give that shout out
Yes.
there. But yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh,
yeah,
so important. Oh, that's such a great answer. That was a great answer. You created what you needed. You
absolutely.
saw what was missing in the community. You saw what was missing in your life and you went out and did it. You created that and you should be so proud. That's such a good reminder. Like the women who are stepping up to help you and that feel called to help this group, you have to like I do the same thing. I check myself like, well, I'm not paying them. We're not getting paid for this, guys. Like, you're
Yeah.
okay with that? And it's like, no, I want to build this with you. And it's like, okay, this is amazing. And you don't want to take advantage of that. But at the same time, you're like, oh my gosh, please don't ever go anywhere.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
you are a literal godsend and it is amazing. So I absolutely love that. Okay. I want to talk to you about basically what you are doing. Like, I want you to kind of bring a little bit of your mentorship headspace, your knowledge and experience. What's the word I'm looking for? I want you to bring your secret sauce to the podcast today and maybe share with us a few tips that you have in either personal branding or what is your favorite thing to share about?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like so much, but we'll keep it kind of
Yeah.
like in line with what we've been talking about. And I think that, when it comes to building a personal brand, and I think I kind of said this before, but every person has a personal brand already. Whether you know it or not, you have it. People have a perception of you. They are following you, they're paying attention to you, and they are creating this brand of who you are in their mind, whether you know it or not. And so I think if you were to do one thing today to start to take control of this personal brand that you're building, would be just to lean into it and think about who you are, think about why you started your business, and think about the people who you want to attract into your
Mhm.
business and figure out what pieces of you are either going to help them get there that they have in common with you or that would inspire them, and then just talk about it. Again, you don't have to put everything out there. You don't have to show up on social media every day. It's a matter of making that intentional shift of, okay, I can take control of this narrative. I can show up as who I am and connect with the people that I want to connect with.
Mhm.
When you do this, you're really able to build your business on your terms. This is why I can run 2 businesses in 14 hours a week, because I have decided I'm going to show up as me and share what's happening in my life, and people understand that and respect that. And it's attracting people who are in a similar position who understand that and respect that even more. And so just get really clear about who you are attracting, why you're doing this, and what you can do to inspire, educate, entertain, serve those people that you want to work with.
I love it. One thing I'm curious about as you're going through and trying to figure out your personal brand, do you think it's beneficial to ask your audience straight up, like, hey, what do you like to see from me? Or what are 3 words that come to mind? Or what's 1 word that comes to mind when you follow my account? Are there things that people can do to their audience specifically that you recommend or have seen work that they could do even today on their Instagrams or social
Yeah.
media?
Yeah, absolutely. Being collaborative is always really important because I'm not just growing my business by myself. It's
Mhm,
definitely for me, but it's also for my community. And
mhm.
so, definitely asking, paying attention, seeing what it is that people want to see from you. Sure. I would say just be careful with that because we don't want to, like, if you haven't already intentionally been building, we don't want to give people what they want to see just because we think they want to see it.
Yes.
So I would say
Yes.
that's absolutely a great thing to do. But before you do that, I would spend time getting really clear in yourself.
Yeah.
You might have attracted the wrong audience. And if that's the first thing you do, you might get the wrong answers and end up even more confused. I would definitely do that after you get really, really clear on yourself
Mhm.
first.
You could put a poll out there instead of just asking people to give you straight
Mhm.
up answers. It could be like, "Do you follow me for the baking content or for the motherhood content?" Or whatever it is that you're doing, and then they could give you an answer because those are the 3 things that you've already decided are part of your personal brand, and then you can
Mhm.
kinda be like, "Oh, people like to lean into that." So that's yeah.
Definitely.
I mean, I love it. I'm curious, when you work with women on their businesses, what does that look like? What does the mentorship side of being a business mentor look like for you and as a client experience, essentially?
Oh my gosh, it's my favorite thing. In fact, last year I scaled back my entire offer suite because Olympia Boss Society was growing so much quicker than I anticipated. And it really became the foundation of my entire business. I had to completely shift my model. I will say also, like, leaning into my community and putting myself out there locally brought me 100% of my business last year. And
Mhm,
that's a huge statistic that shows if you are not putting yourself out there in your local community, start doing it right away because that is really where the conversion will come from when it comes to visibility. That's going to happen a lot quicker than posting on social media every day. So just a little side note. Um, but I've completely revamped my offer suite. And so last year I was only working with women one-on-one. And I love the way that I do private one-on-one mentorship. I only take 3 women per quarter. We start out with a huge intake form. I get to know everything about you and your business. I get my eyes on your entire business. I audit your social media, your website, your funnels. I look at everything. And then we have a kickoff call where we sit down on Zoom or in person and talk through what your goals are and what I've assessed from auditing all of your things and your spaces.
mhm,
Then we break down a business strategy. Depending on how long we work together, 3 months or 6 months, I give you a giant business evaluation. It's usually like anywhere from like 15 to 20 pages of just everything that we're going to work through and focus on, with the root of that always being building your personal brand and creating a visibility strategy that's aligned with what you actually want and where your
mhm,
time is most relevant instead of just like wasting time trying to be everywhere.
mm,
And
mhm,
then the way that I like to mentor is through Voxer. I am very aware that my ideal clients aren't able to just hop on a Zoom like once a week, and I'm not able to do that either. So Voxer is like a voice, kind of like a walkie-talkie app where my clients have access to me during my office hours and we just talk back and forth about your business. I've audited
mhm.
everything, I've given you the strategy, but then I'm there to hold your hand and give you hands-on support as you're going through it. And so that's been a really impactful way for women to get results on their schedule. And it also works with my life and my schedule. So I don't feel like I'm, resentful or burning myself out, can't show up for my
Mhm.
clients. And then, we have a closeout call and then post support as well. I've loved the way that I've built the mentorship. That's my favorite offer. And now I am bringing back one of my group offers. Doors open in April, and it's called Cultivate Like a Boss. And it's a 6-week group experience that has a little bit of face to face on Zoom, has a little bit of Voxer, has some education, and it's all about teaching you how to build a community backed brand that really helps support your business. So, those are kind of the ways that I work with people in this season.
Oh, that's so cool. I love that. I wanted to touch on what are some of the ways that you did put yourself out into your local community outside of the community group? What are some ways that you found that putting yourself out there brought you in your business?
Yeah, to be totally honest, I wasn't getting out in the community much at all until I started my group because it just wasn't comfortable for me. It wasn't something that I had been told to do it. I had been told to show up to um like vendor fairs, like, what are those called? What am I thinking of? Like,
Markets?
yeah, like
Yeah.
show up at markets or, go hand out flyers. Like, those were all things that I had been told to do, but I wasn't confident or comfortable enough to do it. And also, I really just didn't have time when I was home with the
Yeah.
kids. Talk about going from 0 to 100. I went from not being out in my community at all to building this group in the community. I will say, though, collaborations are what has built this group. And not being afraid to make the ask. And again, building that personal brand when you approach somebody and ask them for something, if they feel like they know you more because of the brand that you've built, which is really true to who you are, and they see that when they meet
Mhm.
you in person, it's a lot easier for someone to say yes. Thinking about who you know in your network that you can reach out to and make an ask, and also think about how you can support them.
Mhm.
Collaborations in your local community will grow your business so quickly, and it's so much fun too.
Mhm. No, I've seen that firsthand. I mean, that's how this group has grown so quickly as well, is
Mhm.
collaborations, just people like good people who have built good personal brands, sharing their experience. And then what I've loved is seeing the women collaborate together. Like
Mhm.
after one of the meetups, oh gosh, I think it was maybe like September, we had 3 or 4 people doing giveaways together. And I was like, yes, this is the vision. It's the vision. That's such a good reminder to literally put yourself out there, and also don't be afraid to slide into somebody's DMs. I actually had a gal reach out to me on Instagram. She commented on something. She goes, "Hey, I sent you a DM." And I was like, "Oh, okay, this looks like a real person. I'll check it out."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Hey, I'd love to work with you and come to one of your events sometime and offer this service." And I was like, "For real? All right." Like, like I love this for
Yeah.
me and I love this for you. And and her whole thing was wanting to get out into the community. And that was her way of getting out into the community to meet new people and grow her business by supporting the Mom Boss Meetup. And so you're so spot on. Like, that's such a great reminder that you don't have to do this alone. You don't have to live in a silo. You can get out there and meet other people, bring them into your business, bring them into your personal life, let them in, and you'll see the results. Gosh, yeah, I mean, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
this whole conversation, like, so good. Okay, I could ask you probably 50 more questions, but I wanted to ask you a few fun questions. What would you say is your superpower?
Ooh, my superpower is when somebody just brain dumps at me everything that they're experiencing and has going on. I don't know how, but I'm able to repeat it back to them in a way that makes so much sense and puts all the pieces together. It's pretty fun.
Ooh. Ooh, you're like a little decipher. We'll have to, like, come up with a name for that because that's such a talent. It is a big deal. When is your birthday?
August 30th.
So I have this birthday book, and I do this for every interview that I do because this was my great grandma's book. It's called The Birthday Book. It has just a few sentences about everybody's birthday in here. And also, I have to note that your birthday is the same as my great grandma's, whose book this
Oh my
was,
gosh, what? Oh my
which
gosh,
is
that's so special.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. She's a very special lady. So, this is yours. It could be spot on, and you can also tell me if it's not. You are conservative, alert, and intuitive, but at your worst, you can be critical, nagging, and overly fussy about small details. You are an excellent reasoner with a fine mind and a good intellect. You are frank, honest, and high principled.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up.
Isn't that fun? It's just kinda like a
Yeah,
fun, like, little sentence, like, I love it. It's like my little party trick, like, "Ooh, what's your birthday?"
let's see.
Speaking of birthdays, what's your go-to meal?
Ooh, go-to meal. Let's see. Oh man, I love Thai food. I would say the drunken noodle with
Ooh,
some fresh spring rolls. I can get down with that. Chicken, add veggies. That's probably my
okay.
favorite. Yeah.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Binge watching reality
Yes.
TV, but not like the housewives. I'm talking like the raunchier the better, like Love Island, Too Hot to Handle. Right now I'm watching The Traitors. I love Big Brother, Survivor, all of
Okay.
those shows.
What's the last book you read?
I am reading a book right now called Only If You're Lucky. I decided this year that I was going to ditch my TikTok habit and replace it with reading before bed. So I've been
I
reading
love that.
before bed. I'm on my third book, which is like I haven't read 3 fiction books in a year even, and I'm already on my third book. So I'm really proud about that.
Oh my gosh.
I've been on like a murder book spree.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
I don't know why, but it's like murder mystery. It's really what I'm into right now.
Mhm.
And so this one is about some college girls and there's some kind of murder mystery we're trying to solve.
I know, I don't read. It's not even because I don't want to. I watched a comedy last night and the guy's like, "My eyes know how to read, but my brain doesn't comprehend it." And I was like, "Oh, I feel this on a deep spiritual level." I love that. Okay, well, I just those were just some fun questions. I'm so grateful. Like this was such a great episode. I'm so thankful for all your insight and your knowledge. It was just so fun to get to know you and thank you. I'm just so pumped to be in the community with you now and get to know you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I had so much fun. I could talk to you all day. This was awesome.
Oh, I know. I know. I was like, I'm sad that our time is coming to an end. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It was a pleasure speaking to Megan. All right. Take care. Welcome to the Mom Boss Podcast, the show where motherhood meets business and everything in between. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Let's get started.